It's inescapable, isn't it? The sadness. But the question is, Bruce, what will you do with it? It's something different now, isn't it? Something that won't let go or dissipate. Tell me, Bruce. Today on the Comic Book Report, Batman, the Knight. Stick around and check it out. Greetings from Gotham, everyone. My name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm elated to talk to you about one of the new graphic novels that has entered my collection. Of course, I'm talking about Batman the Knight from Chip Zdarsky. This release really snuck up on me, but I absolutely treasured this. Before we jump into the review though, I just want to shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you check them out. You can find their link in my description for this video, and if you find something you'd like to purchase, you can use my discount code, TheComicBookReport, at checkout to receive $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a great way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's Batman review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume are written by Chip Zdarsky and illustrated by Carmine D. Giandomenico. The comics in this volume were first published by DC Comics beginning in 2022. The volume itself collects Batman the Knight issues 1 through 10. And finally, this matte paper-stocked collection is a standard-size hardcover that comes in at 208 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at that standard size hardcover from DC Comics, Batman the Knight. Love the art we get all throughout this dust jacket. We also have some under the dust jacket art I'll showcase shortly, but this is a really lovely book. I love the art direction and design, and this is frankly a really unique collection. I'm sure I'll get into this, but basically this is a story that takes place after Bruce Wayne's parents are murdered, but before he dons the cape and cowl as Batman. This is kind of that coming of age period where he's developing and traveling the world and gaining all the skills he needs to become the Dark Knight we know and love. I think that this is such an amazing story that really taps into a period of Bruce Wayne's life that is really not overly developed. I'll admit I had no idea this series existed until this collection came out within the last few weeks. I picked it up the first week, fell in love with it, and knew I had to review it. I've really enjoyed what I've read of Chip Zdarsky's Batman run so far. I've loved what he's done on Daredevil, Howard the Duck, the Marvel 2-in-1s, and so many more series, so I shouldn't have been surprised how much I liked this book, but it even surpassed those expectations I came in with. At any rate, we're taking a final look at this dust jacket, including the interior flaps, just giving you kind of an at-a-glance for this entire dust jacket, before I transition to the under the dust jacket artwork on Batman the Knight. Overall, a really great set of art here. I love just the black and reds we have. It doesn't always show up great in my camera, but rest assured it's a really beautifully designed book that looks quite handsome on the bookcase. You can see we have the title here printed on the hardback itself. The hardback is very glossy, which is a kind of nice little touch here. Again, you can kind of see the reflection of my kind of camera stand here. Anyway, a really stunning collection here, a beautifully just made book. I would have loved to see glossy print paper stock over the matte, and the binding appears to be glued, possibly glued and sewn. I would have preferred a proper sewn binding, maybe an oversized format, but who knows what the future will hold. Overall, very happy with this release. And now a quick look at that aforementioned binding for all of you prospective collectors out there to take a look. There is a little bit of gutter loss, but nothing too critical that I noticed. It never really interfered with the text as far as my reading went. You of course can come to your own conclusions, particularly as you see me flip through the collection. So let's go ahead and start flipping. We have some front matter for this collection, all very standard. We have some titles, creator credits, publication information, and then we jump in with Batman the Knight issue 1. And I really like how they start this series. It has to do with kind of a therapy visit between Bruce Wayne and Hugo Strange, where Strange is kind of psychoanalyzing him and trying to get to the root of his trauma, kind of trying to manipulate him. And it's a great way to drop the exposition we need. Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered. He's trying to figure himself out. He's getting increasingly more dark and violent and kind of isolated, presumably why he's in therapy here. But it's a really great setup. Like I said, it establishes the characters really well. For those that know who Dr. Hugo Strange is, it's definitely a bit insidious too, having him being the one analyzing Bruce Wayne. But this issue kind of sets us off getting to see him in his school days and how he maybe in some ways fails to fit in. He's a brilliant boy, but he's obviously consumed by his vengeance already, his quest. And so he's kind of acting out a bit. We find him as part of these kind of unofficial fight clubs that are going on throughout the city, and he seems like he's kind of the rich boy that's trying to get into the seedy element to get the training he needs to hone his body as a weapon and to do something with what he's carrying about his parents. The first couple issues are pretty along this bend. I do like how they flip it on Hugo Strange, where by the end of that little mini arc there, you have the realization that Bruce knows that Hugo Strange is a bad guy. He sees how he's manipulating one of his girlfriends basically, and so the entire therapy session kind of turns on its head as you realize that Bruce is really the one in control, which is so just apropos of Batman. I love this setup. I think it was a great way to start this series. We also got a really good feel for the dynamic between Alfred and Bruce Wayne, which was a very tender kind of heart or core of this series in general. After those early issues with him at the school, we have him beginning to travel the world. He kind of runs away from home, runs away from Alfred, basically realizing he needs to be the fish in a vast ocean and not in a little pond anymore. He wants to travel the world and find the best of the best in different disciplines and fields so that he can kind of expand his repertoire for the fight against crime. So one of the places he goes early on is he goes to, I think, Paris, and he's trying to develop skills, and he comes across a cat burglar who is super stealthy and knows how to break in and kind of has this feel of Selina Kyle, kind of a proto Selina Kyle, and he ends up kind of under her wing learning this training. He even kind of does some petty cat burglary to learn all the skills to think like a criminal, to get that kind of stealth, evasive, agility and things like that. That lands him right in the crosshairs of sort of this detective guy, Ducard, who we've heard about in different other Batman mythos throughout the years. This is sort of the grand detective who also ends up being one of his mentors throughout this process. But the storyline in Paris is really fascinating. We have them basically all trying to track down a serial killer. So this was a really interesting turn for me. We get to see Bruce Wayne basically getting closer to the criminal element than we maybe ever see him in many ways, to try to understand the mind of the criminal. We have him battling with some really intense anger and darkness, and there's this feel of how close can he get without losing control? How much can he hold on to this obsession and this passion and this whole reason for living without being consumed and corrupted by it? What I like here that Zdarsky does as well is that this is absolutely undeniably Bruce Wayne. It feels like Batman before Batman, but he's young, he's inexperienced, he's not totally skilled or there yet. There's some impulsiveness here, there's some immaturity here as he's trying to handle all of these emotions and desires in his heart. And to see it play out, I think it's just done really well. I think for a 10-issue miniseries, it covers so much ground, but it never feels overly rushed. You feel like you get just enough time to enjoy it, to leave you wanting more, and you transition to the next mission or set of kind of teachers that Bruce Wayne tries to acquire. After this whole setup, and I believe Paris, we have Bruce kind of going into this monastery on top of a mountain to learn combat and martial arts from this Grand Master in this kind of reclusive mountainous monastery. This is an interesting wrinkle as well because he meets sort of a friend or ally named Anton who kind of becomes a buddy of his on his quest. Right away, this person is absolutely consumed by a very similar drive as Bruce. He wants to be the best of the best. He wants to seek out the best masters they could find, and they find themselves crossing paths with this martial art master. But after a while, this community, this monastery, is invaded by these other learners who are a lot more vicious and violent and ruthless. We feel like this monastery also teaches kind of killing moves that Bruce is unwilling to do and to cross that line. And ultimately, once Bruce kind of learns as much as he needs to from this martial arts community, he eventually leaves the monastery. He's basically jumped by some of these violent students, only to be helped by this guy Anton, who basically decides to leave the monastery with Bruce, and they kind of decide together to go off and continue their training together. This was a really fun twist with this story. I think right away when I heard Anton, even though the name didn't line up, when I learned about him that this is someone who was here during Bruce Wayne's training and is trying to be the best as well, and may or may not have some psychopathic tendencies, I thought right away, this is clearly Ghostmaker from James Tynion's run on Batman, and minor spoilers here, by the end of the book, it is absolutely Ghostmaker. He's going by a different name here, but this is who the character is. And I really liked Tynion's Ghost Stories story arc that introduced this character. I've really enjoyed some of his appearances in the Batman comics since then. And so to have more of a foundation for that character and the way that Chip Zdarsky chose to honor that inclusion by Tynion, I think is just a masterstroke here. I think that I have so much greater appreciation for that character and this friendship dynamic reading this storyline. I think it was really exceptional. After they leave the monastery, the next place they go is to try to be a master of disguise and to kind of get the social tact and kind of play in. They meet this person that basically is kind of disguising and trying to be, okay, in this realm you need to be flirtatious, in this realm you need to be unassuming, in this realm you need to be distractionary. So that training leads them on a whole different set of problems, and we have the two friends, Anton and Bruce, kind of coming to odds on who is going to be the best of the best as they get training to, yes, be the best. So this is more kind of missions. We have a deepening of that friendship and a deepening of understanding for Bruce as he's acquiring more skills. Throughout this journey as well, we have Bruce in very, very loose to no communication with Alfred, who is presumably grieving back home, basically being a father figure to Bruce. And we see that weighing on Bruce, feeling like he's disappointing Alfred, but being unable to let down his calling, his quest, his journey to do all of these things. After that, the two find like the world's best marksman, and they kind of get training in like bow hunting and guns. Even though Bruce hates it, they go there for training. And this is where there's a really rift in the friendship between Anton and Bruce, because Anton's basically willing to use lethal force and basically murders this mentor, and it really drives a wedge between Bruce and Anton. Anton lets Bruce live, and the two part ways. After this point, we have Bruce back being a loner, but we have what appears to be Anton threatening to stop him as he's going about the rest of his travels. Along the way as well, we have Bruce teaming up with Zatanna and her father, who teach him kind of illusion, escape craft, and he also learns that magic is real. And we have Bruce almost deciding to pursue magic, but basically realizing he can't do that while holding on to the degree of darkness he has without horrible consequences. But this was a really fun interlude as well. I like that we get an establishment of that Bruce and Zatanna dynamic. It's a really fun one whenever they get it right, and I think that Zdarsky did a great job here with that. There's some really sweet moments in this issue, and it was definitely a piece I really enjoyed. Sometime after that, we have Bruce going to this man who's sort of mastered like everything, and he's mastered kind of the mental part of the game. So even though Bruce might socially know what to do now, and physically he's honed his whole body into this amazing instrument, he needs to know how to mentally fortify himself as well. And he comes across this guy that's kind of out of his mind and wild, and he gets the training there. He ultimately comes across Anton again, and they kind of make a loose truce. They take down this guy, but they're ultimately introduced to the idea of Ra's al Ghul and kind of the League of Shadows and everything he's doing. And so that leads into ultimately the kind of climax of this book, where after they received all their training, Bruce and Anton are basically invited by Ra's al Ghul to enter into his League of Shadows, which in this incarnation is trying to, air quotes, save the world by, manipulating a bunch of stuff. He has all these like warriors and assassins, and there's sort of a tryout, and in the tryout, Bruce ends up besting Anton and proving he's the best of the best of the best. So he gets to be sort of the protege for Ra's al Ghul. We also have a great appearance by Talia al Ghul here, but this all leads to, again, a climax where we find out that Bruce feels that Raz's methods and means are not good. This is not how you save the world. And so it ultimately culminates with Bruce stopping his plan, making a very lifelong enemy of Ra's al Ghul and Talia. And we basically have Bruce and Anton, kind of becoming buddies again at the very end. But we do get to have that pivotal scene where Bruce tells him, Gotham is mine, you have the rest of the world. If I ever see you again, we're going to have problems. Which is very much kind of the way things picked up in that Tynion era with Ghostmaker when they introduced him. So I thought this was such a great wraparound that pays off that Ghost Stories arc with Tynion. I love that we got Ra's al Ghul. I love that we got Ducard and so many of these people that we've heard about or seen in different ways that were part of the Batman mythos. The story really culminates where he goes back home after he's achieved all these skills and all these things. He has an amazing reunion with Alfred, and the idea is that now he's going to ascend into Batman. He goes into the caves. He knows who he's going to be. Just so well done. I was enthralled. I read this cover to cover and I burned through it so fast. I think that this is easily going to be a modern classic for me and on my bookshelf, particularly in the Batman books. I would put this next to things like Year One, like Long Halloween. It's probably not quite that caliber, but the fact that this fills in such an instrumental part in Bruce Wayne's life in such a satisfactory way, at least in my opinion, I'm going to hold it up there for like early canon Bruce Wayne Batman stories. I really, really loved it. I liked seeing them flesh out this world and this aspect of Bruce Wayne's life. I thought everything I saw was plausible and great, and it felt like Batman. It felt like Bruce Wayne. It felt so believable. And I think also because I've enjoyed Ghostmaker, having more of that backstory and this interaction was really gratifying. I do think that there were some cool themes here explored with what to do with trauma and how to kind of find yourself. There really is a coming of age aspect to it. As far as the title of the book, Batman the Knight, of course we know he's the Dark Knight. That's part of Batman's whole shtick. But there's also a really good metaphor here about each of these masters that Bruce Wayne learns from. It's almost like getting a piece of his armor that he can build to eventually fight this war he wants to do. So we have that kind of image before us, and it's established early on in the story. So Batman the Knight is kind of like the process in which Batman gains his armor, gains all the pieces he needs to be who he is and to stand and to not be vulnerable anymore and to be as strong as he needs to be to do the fight he has to fight or feels like he needs to fight. I really love that. As far as the art goes in the collection, I think Giandomenico did a fantastic job. This is an artist I've seen before in the past, though I really can't point to what I've seen them do. But I really loved it here. I think it was really strong. I love that we had a singular artist throughout the whole book. That level of cohesion and storytelling consistency was really perfect for a book like this. I really feel like I got to see his set of skills because we have Bruce Wayne kind of globetrotting. He's on all of these different environments with a really colorful cast of characters. And so we get to see a lot of flourishes with this artwork. We get to see a lot of incredible set dressing and action and just some really beautiful imagery. And I think that this paired with Zdarsky's work, it's just a 1-2 punch for a singular effect of just incredible Batman work. Really, really pleased with it. Not really a bad word to say. At the back of the book, we have a variant cover art gallery, a couple extras here, and a solicit for other DC books, but that's really going to round out our collection for Batman the Knight. This was outstanding, a high recommend for me, and I think all that's left to do now is to give this standard size hardcover a grade. It should be no surprise after hearing me gush for over 15 minutes now, the Comic Book Report gives Batman the Knight an A. This was a must-read comic for me, particularly of any Batman fan out there if you like DC Comics. I think Chip Zdarsky has really turned in something special here. Overall, I just love his approach to this era of Bruce Wayne's life. I think it feels like the character, and I feel like I just get a whole new chapter for this person I love reading about so much. Zdarsky just hits it out of the park again. I think that this is a must-follow author and an absolute must-read series. The art is fantastic. Cannot say high enough praise about that. This is a great Batman book. Pick it up. If you haven't heard about it, you have now. If you're like me and you're really late to the game, definitely get this while it's still in print. I think that this is something that should be read and shared. But let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Let me know what you think of my review. And as always, thank you for watching. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave this video a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a good one.